If you wanted to influence a Democratic election 40 years ago, the playbook was relatively straightforward. You set up a meeting in a dimly lit room, passed a briefcase of cash, or routed funds through a complex web of shell companies. Today, the landscape is unrecognizable. We are witnessing a massive convergence of high finance, decentralized technology, and political power, highlighted by recent financial disclosures showing unprecedented personal income surges from digital assets and crypto ventures. It raises a fundamental question. Has the traditional concept of political corruption simply evolved into something we are legally and technologically unprepared to regulate?
It absolutely has. The traditional models of tracking influence are failing because the vehicles of wealth generation have changed. When a political figure launches a cryptocurrency venture or sells digital assets directly to the public, they are bypassing the traditional financial gatekeepers. To understand the sheer scale of this shift, we have to look at it through a pestle lens. Politically, it creates a direct channel of financial alignment between foreign or domestic buyers and a candidate. Economically, we are looking at highly volatile, speculative assets that can fluctuate in value based on a single social media post. Socially, there is a growing acceptance of alternative finance, which makes these ventures look like modern innovation rather than conflicts of interest.
And technologically, the decentralized nature of blockchain makes tracing the ultimate origin of funds incredibly difficult, even if the ledger itself is public. Legally, our disclosure frameworks are hopelessly outdated. They were built for stocks, bonds, and real estate, not for digital tokens utility-pegged to a political brand. It creates a massive loophole where personal wealth generation and campaign promotion blend into a single, continuous stream.
Exactly. If you run a SWOT analysis on this new reality, the strengths for the political actors are obvious. They get rapid liquidity, direct access to a global pool of capital, and a highly enthusiastic base of supporters who are financially invested in their political success. But the weaknesses are equally glaring. Speculative assets are highly volatile, and any sudden crash can lead to accusations of financial impropriety or outright scams, damaging their credibility.
The opportunities, though, are what really drive this behavior. We are talking about the ability to monetize political influence in real time, creating a self-funding political machine that does not rely on traditional donors or party infrastructure. But the threat to the broader democratic system is profound. If public policy can be influenced by purchasing a candidate's private digital currency, the entire concept of public service is compromised. It shifts the threat vector from campaign donations, which have limits, to direct personal enrichment, which has very few.
That is where the strategic alignment becomes fascinating. If we apply the MOST framework, looking at the mission, objectives, strategies, and tactics of these political actors, the picture becomes crystal clear. The mission is not just winning an election. It is the consolidation of long-term political and financial influence. The objective is to build an independent financial empire that can withstand legal battles, political campaigns, and institutional opposition.
And the strategy to achieve that is the fusion of personal branding with decentralized finance. By launching crypto ventures, the politician ensures that their financial well-being is directly tied to the financial interests of their followers. The tactics are highly practical. Promotional campaigns disguised as financial opportunities, leveraging rallies to drive token value, and exploiting the lag in regulatory oversight to maximize gains before the rules can catch up.
It is a brilliant, albeit deeply concerning, alignment of incentives. Speaking of strategic insights and unpacking complex global dynamics, this is actually a perfect moment to remind our listeners about what we do here.
You are listening to The New Sentinel, a podcast dedicated to providing in-depth discussions and deep dives into a wide array of topics. From the glitz and glamour of pop culture to the strategic intricacies of military operations, we cover it all.
Each episode is thoughtfully crafted to offer you a comprehensive understanding of the subject matter, featuring expert interviews, detailed analysis, and engaging storytelling.
Whether you are a pop culture enthusiast or someone with a keen interest in global security, the New Sentinel has something for everyone.
Tune in, view, subscribe, comment, and post an inquiry to stay informed and entertained. Now, let us get back to how these financial dynamics play out on the grand stage.
To really understand why politicians and regulators behave the way they do in this environment, we have to look at this through the lens of game theory. We are essentially looking at a strategic game played between three main actors: the political figure, the regulatory institutions, and the voting public.
Right. Let us map out the payoffs. For the political figure, the dominant strategy is to exploit the regulatory gray areas as aggressively as possible. If they self-regulate or hold back out of ethical concerns, they lose out on massive financial resources that their opponents might exploit. In game theory terms, compliance yields a lower payoff than non-compliance, especially when the probability of immediate legal punishment is low and the financial reward is high.
And what about the regulators? Their dominant strategy is often delayed intervention. If they move too quickly to crack down on crypto ventures, they face accusations of political bias, weaponizing regulatory agencies, or stifling technological innovation. So, their payoff is maximized by waiting for clear legal precedents or public consensus, which gives the political actors a massive window of opportunity to operate unchecked.
This leads us to a classic Nash equilibrium where the politician continues to innovate new ways to generate personal income through digital assets, and the regulator remains perpetually behind the curve. The public, meanwhile, is caught in a prisoner's dilemma. If voters collectively demand strict transparency, they might clean up the system, but individual factions within the electorate are incentivized to ignore the corruption of their preferred candidate to ensure their side wins the election. The short-term desire for political victory overrides the long-term benefit of systemic integrity.
It is a self-reinforcing cycle. When personal wealth and political power become this deeply intertwined, the traditional checks and balances start to look like minor speed bumps. We are no longer talking about traditional lobbying, where a corporation pays for access. We are talking about a system where the politician is the corporation, and the public is buying shares in their political future.
It changes the very nature of political loyalty. If you own a token associated with a candidate, you do not just want them to win because you agree with their policies. You want them to win because their victory directly increases the value of your financial portfolio. The supporter becomes a shareholder. That is a massive shift in democratic incentives.
It really is. It turns political support into a speculative investment. And if we look at the long-term trajectory, where does this leave us? If the legal framework cannot adapt fast enough to address these hybrid financial political structures, we might see a future where public policy is openly traded on decentralized markets.
That is the ultimate destination of this trend. We could see a scenario where legislative outcomes, regulatory decisions, and executive orders are directly correlated with the market performance of specific digital assets owned by key political figures. It would represent the complete financialization of governance.
It forces us to ask a very uncomfortable question. Is our current regulatory framework even capable of policing this, or has the technology permanently outpaced the law? If the definition of conflict of interest can be bypassed by simply changing the format of the asset from fiat currency to blockchain tokens, then our legal definitions of corruption are essentially obsolete.
It means we need a fundamental rewrite of disclosure laws. We cannot just ask politicians to list their assets on a paper form once a year. We need real-time automated tracking of digital wallets, smart contracts, and token transactions. But the irony is that the very people who would need to pass those laws are the ones currently benefiting from the lack of them.
Which brings us back to the core deadlock of the game. The players who write the rules are the ones playing the game. And right now, the rules are highly profitable for them. It leaves the future of democratic transparency in a very precarious position. As we watch these financial disclosures reveal greater surges in personal income, we are not just looking at individual wealth. We are looking at the blueprint for the future of political influence.
It is a blueprint that is being drawn in real time, and the ink is drying faster than the public can react. The question is whether the electorate will recognize the shift before the boundary between private wealth and public office disappears entirely.